Today we are going to embark on a journey through the history of Shelly in Brawl Stars. One thing to remember during this video is that Shelly is the starting brawler in Brawl Stars, meaning if she is OP it shifts the whole meta because she is so easy to get. When Brawl Stars first started, Shelly was not that big of a deal. She was considered average by most. This wouldn't change until El Primo became meta, which didn't take very long at the beginning of the game. There weren't many counters to El Primo at the time, so Shelly immediately rose to the top of the meta. She was very good from range back then, which made it easy for players to stay away from El Primo and kill him. Because of this, Shelly received her first nerf on August 16th, 2017. Her reload time was increased to 1.5 seconds from 1.25. Her main attack range was decreased to 6.67 tiles from 7.67, so a whole tile. Her main attack shells also got a larger spread, so that was a little bit of a buff. This change proved to make Shelly pretty balanced because she would have to get closer to do any serious damage. The next major change to Shelly was when Brawl Stars went landscape. Auto aim was added, and this made playing Shelly and getting the maximum damage from her shots so much easier. So this change to the game inadvertently buffed Shelly and most other tanks. Players began to get used to auto aiming Shelly's shots and super, and she became a bit overpowered. So almost a year after her original changes, she received another nerf. On March 21st, 2018, Shelly's main attack damage was decreased to 300 from 320 per shell. Although this nerf wasn't a major one, people figured out how to defeat Shelly. All they had to do was stay away from her, kinda similar to Frank now. So she became pretty horrible in the meta, and Brawl Stars realized this, so Shelly got a wave of buffs. On May 21st, 2018, Shelly's health was increased to 3600 from 3200, and on May 29th, Shelly's main attack range was increased to 7.33 tiles from 6.67 tiles. After these buffs, her use rate became higher, but people soon realized that she was still horrible. Her main problem was not being able to approach her enemies, and at the time, most other tanks had some way to get closer to her enemies, but Shelly did not. So she was still really bad even after these pretty big buffs. Despite being one of the worst brawlers in the game, Shelly was not touched for almost a year until she received a few small buffs. On April 15th, 2019, Shelly's main attack range was increased again to 7.67 tiles from 7.33 tiles, and her main attack projectile speed was also increased by 5%. Then a couple months later, on June 11th, Shelly's Shell Shock Star Power slow duration was increased to 3 seconds from 2.5. These buffs definitely helped her overall, but they were pretty small buffs in the grand scheme of things, and she still felt pretty bad to play. Supercell quickly realized this and made one of the biggest changes to Shelly in the history of her. They added a second star power to her. On June 26, 2019, Shelly's Band-Aid star power was added. On release, Band-Aid was one of the most broken star powers in the history of Brawl Stars. Every 20 seconds, Shelly would charge up a bar. When below a certain amount of health, it would pop and heal her all the way up, meaning that you basically had to kill her twice. All of a sudden, the brawler that was horrible quickly became the best in the entire game. It took Supercell 2 months to realize how broken she was, and they finally nerfed her. On August 29th, 2019, Shelly's Band-Aid star power healing was decreased to 2000 health. Everyone thought this would kill Shelly, but it didn't. She was still almost as OP as she was before. You would only have to be a bit more cautious than before. This caused Supercell to quickly nerf Shelly again. A little bit less than a month later, Shelly's Band-Aid star power healing was decreased to 1800 from 2000 health. After this nerf, Shelly was still relatively good, but as time ticked by, she became worse because people again figured out how to counter her. At the time, there was a lot of hype around the gadget update that was coming to Brawl Stars. A lot of people thought Shelly was going to get a gadget that would help her get closer to enemies. And on March 17th, everyone was proved right. Shelly's fast forward gadget was added. To everyone's surprise also, it ended up being one of the worst gadgets ever added to Brawl Stars. The gadget itself was a dash forward, but it was terrible. She didn't even dash that far, and she had no immunity during the dash, like Max's, basically meaning that she could not get hit while dashing. And it also did no damage, so it was completely useless. And because every other brawler got useful gadgets, Shelly fell back to being completely useless and one of the worst brawlers in the game. Supercell soon realized that the fast forward gadget had missed the mark and that Shelly was one of the worst brawlers in the game, so they added another gadget to Shelly, the infamous clay pigeons. To newer players, this probably sends shivers down your spine, but at the time, Clay Pigeon's gadget was actually not as good as it is now. At the time, it only shot one long-range shot, which was useful in only a very few select scenarios, and Supercell quickly realized this, so in the latter part of 2020, Shelly got buffed 2 different times. On September 10th, 2020, Shelly's health was increased to 3,800 from 3,600. The number of hits necessary to charge her super was decreased to 2 hits from 3, and her super recharge rate was decreased slightly. And then, on December 15th, 2020, Shelly's Star Shock power slow duration was increased to 4 seconds from 3, and Shelly's Band-Aid star power now charges in 15 seconds from 20. Despite all of these buffs, Shelly was still pretty bad. To give Supercell some credit, Shelly is a really hard brawler to balance, because if she gets close to enemies, she just shreds them, and a lot of newer players at the time did not know how to counter her. Shelly just couldn't get close enough to the brawlers to deal enough damage to win her lane, so even after all of these buffs, she was still only viable on a few maps. On May 19th, 2021, Shelly's fast forward gadget range was increased to 3.33 tiles from 3. Her Shell Shock star power slow duration was increased to 4.5 seconds from 4, and her Band-Aid star power healing was increased to 2,000 from 1,800. These are all decent buffs, but they were late game buffs. She was still horrible in all the 3v3 modes at the time, and she was not completely unusable in Showdown, but you had to be pretty good with her to actually win. Supercell realized that she either needed a way to get closer to enemies or a way to hit them from long distance more efficiently, so they decided to buff clay pigeons. On April 16th, 2021, Shelly's Clay Pigeon's gadget projectile speed was increased by 20%. This helped Shelly hit more Clay Pigeon shots, and it was a pretty good buff. However, it was not enough to make Shelly viable in 3v3. She was still one of the worst 3v3 brawlers at the time, and she really was not good in Showdown, still despite a few rounds of buffs. Brawl Stars realized that Shelly was still pretty bad even after all these buffs, and what they did next changed Shelly forever. On August 25th, 2021, Shelly's Clay Pigeon gadget was reworked from affecting Shelly's next attack to increase her range for her attack over the next 5 seconds. So far, Shelly has been buffed 7 times, and this was arguably the best one. She was pretty good in solo showdown, still pretty bad in 3v3, but this buff was definitely a step in the right direction. Shelly would remain in this state for almost 2 years. Then after 2 years of still being pretty bad, she received the most insane buff any brawler has ever received in Brawl Stars. On April 25th, 2023, Shelly's movement speed was increased to 820 from 720. This changed Shelly's movement speed from normal to very fast, which some people thought would be a minor buff, but it quickly became exactly the opposite. During Shelly's entire history, Supercell had been trying to find a way for Shelly to get to her enemies faster, and they have pretty much failed thus far until this change. This buff quickly made Shelly the best and most broken brawler in the game by far, and it was not even close. Despite being the best brawler in the game, it took Supercell 2 whole months to nerf her. Finally, on April 6, 2023, Shelly's health was decreased to 3,700 from 3,800, which was a very minor buff. And Shelly's Shell Stock Star Power, slow duration was decreased to 2 seconds from 4.5. These nerfs did not really affect Shelly at all. People just switched back to the Band-Aid Star Power, and for another 2 months, Shelly became the best brawler in the game. So for a total of 4 months, Shelly was the best brawler in the game until Supercell nerfed her again on August 15th, 2023. Shelly's movement speed was decreased to 770 from 820. Everyone thought this nerf would kill Shelly, but she was still really good even after this nerf. Most people had her in their top 10 brawlers and some even in their top 5. So despite this movement speed nerf, Shelly was still one of the better brawlers in the game. This period of time is when Shelly was the most balanced she had ever been, and she was left like this for a month until one of the most controversial updates came, the Hypercharge update. Shelly's Double Barrel Hypercharge can be obtained by completing a special quest required to win 25 matches in Hypercharge Unleashed until September 11th, 2023. Shelly's Hypercharge was pretty underwhelming. She only received a stat buff and a wide super, which really is not that useful for her. The Hypercharge turned out to be pretty balanced and didn't affect Shelly all that much, but because only 6 brawlers received Hypercharges, she rose back up in the meta. Even though her Hypercharge isn't that good, most people have her as their 3rd or 4th best brawler in the game. This was the last change Supercell made to Shelly. They left her feeling pretty broken, but as more hypercharges are added, Shelly will probably slip down in the meta. But until then, Shelly remains as one of the best brawlers in the game. Thank you all for watching this video, I really appreciate it. I know this is not my normal style of video, but I thought I'd just throw this in there to see how y'all like it. It took me a long time to make, but I hope you did like it. If you did, I would just ask that you drop a like, that would help me a lot. Anyway, peace out homies, thank you for watching.